What's the weirdest thing you've seen happen at a friend's house that they thought was normal? Is mom walking around topless barking a chore list while we just sat around the coffee table working on homework? She was a single mom working multiple jobs. They were latchkey kids. They didn't even bat an eyelash, but the minute she saw a new face sitting on the rug boring a hole into the distant wall, she shifted on a dime. Ducked into the mudroom, threw on her bra and work shirt, and brought out a carton of Oreos from a secret stash and was pretty much shocked into silence. I think she was terrified I'd misappropriate it to my parents, but all we cared about was cookies. One of the first times I met my husband's family, I was over at their house and husband gestured for me to sit down and be comfortable. Their house was really very cluttered. Not quite hoarder cluttered, but close. They had a couple of couches facing each other and then some other chairs. Not knowing the rules, I sat on one of the couches, which had a lot of stuffed teddy bears on it. OMG, you would think I had sat down on live bears. There were probably 20 to 30 small, medium stuffed bears on this couch. Husband's mother and twin brother both visibly reacted, as if I had damaged the bears. Not antique bears either. That was when I was told that the couch was for the bears, and only for the bears, and that no one was allowed to sit on the bears' couch. Just the bears. The bears all had little beaded necklaces with their names on them to tell them apart because they were all the same brand and style. Went to my friend's house after a high school exam. Walked in and his dad and stepdad were playing sorry while smoking cigars and his mom was making out with some random dude on the couch. She gave us $20 and told us to go get a couple large pizzas and come back. I don't know what was weirder, that my friend was like it's not even my dad's week with me, all incredulous, or when we got back, that his dad and makeout dude was gone, table all set for pizza, and his stepdad and mom acted like it was just a normal Wednesday. I was maybe 12 and visiting a friend who lived deep in the woods for the first time. They had 2 outdoor dogs, and one got free and ran over and attacked the other. The dog that got bit was quite a bit smaller and was definitely injured. My friend's dad came out with a pistol and shot both dogs. It changed my life forever. I was raised in a house where dogs are family. My friend and his family didn't seem fazed at all. This really took off, so I guess I can elaborate a little more. This happened around 1994. I grew up in an extremely rural town, so when I say my friend lived deep in the woods, I'm talking like they were completely off the grid backwoods. One of the dogs was my friend's, and the other was his sister's. They were chained up outside 24/7 and just not treated as pets at all. I believe the logic behind the shooting was that the sister's dog was too injured to recover and my friend's dog had killed his sister's dog. So it was only fair to shoot them both. About 30 minutes after the whole thing happened, we all ate dinner together like nothing happened. My parents picked me up shortly after and I cried the entire way home. We only hung out at my house after that. When I was younger I was best friends with 2 brothers from Jamaica. One of the days they asked me to stay over so we could play some Atari. After we finished playing outside. We came home 12 minutes after their curfew, so their dad, who was extremely calm, told us to sit in the living room. I sat in there with my 2 friends and they were super quiet, which was a bit weird until their dad walked in with a belt and beat the living shit out of them. I shit myself, not literally, because I thought I was in for a beating, but he didn't hit me, which was a huge relief. After the beating their dad, asked if I would like some carrot juice. Well, my friends just went back to normal and set up their Atari like nothing happened. I was sat on the sofa wondering what the fuck just went on. My friend's dad convinced the kids that the bud of each loaf of bread was the best. He also outlawed hitting, but placing your hand on your sibling's shoulders and punching your own hand was acceptable. It was Noel's turn to get the end piece on the next loaf of bread, but he and I were playing when groceries came in. When Tony took the end piece, Noel went ballistic, but by ballistic, he placed his hand on his brother and was punching it. The father also collected pipe organs. He had several electric and electronic consoles. One time I took a trip across the country, disassemble a full pipe organ, and pack it home. They bought a geodesic dome and rebuilt the organ inside it. You entered in pipes, there were pipes on the walls, great chests for the living room floor, the living room was a console, and they literally lived inside a musical instrument. My family were very comfortable and my mom always babysat lots of kids from around the neighborhood. Basically her place was just where the kids hung out. Once there was an emergency with my dad and my mom really needed somebody to watch me overnight and I wound up with one of the families that she babysat for. They were really nice people and I was close friends with their kids, obviously because they were at my house every day. It was a new experience though. This was the first time I'd ever seen people living in real poverty. I was kind about it and I didn't say anything, but parts of it were a real shock to me. The toilet didn't work, but they had just continued to use it to the point that it was piled up to the seat. We had to unscrew the light bulb to turn off the lights because the switch would shock you if you touched it. I felt really bad for them. It was just a real eye-opener for me as a kid, and it gave me a much better understanding of exactly why my mom babysat and fed all those kids. Went with a few friends to one of their family's houses for a birthday party when I was like 15 or 16. We smoked weed, swam, and had a great ole time. After eating we settled in to watch a horror movie, and at some point I looked around me, and everyone in that family was sitting in the same crisscross applesauce position and slowly rocking back and forth while watching TV. Definitely not the weirdest thing on this thread by far, but something about it was extremely creepy. They were nice as hell though. 15 years ago. Visit a friend house who live in San Francisco around 3rd Street, bad neighborhood area. Upon entering past by the kitchen 4 gas stove flame was in full blast, not cooking anything, no vent, you can literally see a big burn hole in the ceiling all the way through the 2nd floor room. His mom was upstairs, one of those rooms far away from the bottom floor kitchen, watching TV in full blast. Long story short. They are basically using their gas stove as a centralized heater for the whole house. I'm a certified fire safety director at my work. This almost gives me a heart attack. Went to a sleepover at this girl's house, and her mom was obsessively taking pictures of us all night. At one point, we were watching a movie and my friend passed out, and her mom, I shit you not, pulls out a huge newscast type heavy-duty camera and starts recording her daughter sleeping for a solid 5 minutes. I have trouble sleeping, and so that night, when us kids were in the bedroom to sleep, I was on the floor, just staring at the wall in the dark. I was facing away from the door, laying on my side. I hear the door creak, some footsteps, and then the darkness of the room lit with a sudden flash. I got up just in time to see the door close. I know it was her mom taking pics of us. The weirdest part to me is that it was about 3 a.m. when that happened, meaning the girl's mom either had an alarm or just stayed up that late and wait. Stayed at a friend's house when I was probably 10 or 11, and we had a sleepover one night and we were up really late playing games and just talking. Around 3 to 4 a.m. his dad comes in, frantic, saying that he heard someone breaking in upstairs and that we needed to leave immediately. Anyways, we walk out of the house and he tells the neighbor that they need to leave too. The neighbor looked extremely worried and pulled her phone out. We drive to a place and he gets us some food and eventually an ambulance comes and so does the neighbor along with it because apparently the father was schizophrenic and having an episode. There was really no break-in. Obviously my friend now knows this, but back then, we genuinely believed him. I remembered that I actually have a good story for here. When I was like 8 I had a friend that lived a few houses down and whenever you walked in you noticed 2 things immediately, the cigarettes everywhere and the parrot that tried to bite your toes if you didn't have shoes on. I've definitely gotten bit by it once or twice. They also had another parrot, but I think the mom stepped on it. The boy had a pet snake and once he asked if we would give him our pet rat for snake food, fully serious too. Him and his sister acted super casual with walking into our house for some reason when they decided to visit on a whim, really fucking weird stuff. I wonder how they're doing now. When I, boy, was 10 I went to visit a friend, girl, we played for a few hours and then we sat down to eat dinner. As soon as we sat down, her mother asked me if I was in love with her daughter and I said no, so she said I was lying and that I am in love with her because how can you not be in love with such a beautiful girl? I remember how at that specific moment I started to feel uncomfortable and wanted to go home. The really weird part was that later the father came and sat down with us to eat and after something like 2 minutes her mother turned to me again and told me that I should kiss his daughter like that. Started French kissing her husband, a wet and full of tongue kiss. The kiss lasted 5 minutes and in the end they just moved to the living room and made out in front of me and their daughter. That was super awkward and I never visited her again.